Welcome to Lesson 4, Identifying Proportional and Non-Proportional Relationships in Tables. Starting off with our first example, which team will win the race? You've decided to walk in a long-distance race. There are two teams that you can join. Team A has a constant rate of 2.5 miles per hour. Now, hopefully you know that very often when you're writing something using a per, which is like a ratio, 2.5 miles per 1 hour or just hour. Team B walks 4 miles the first hour and then 2 more each additional hour. So that's 4 for the first and then plus 2 and plus 2 again, and so on and so on. So as we're looking at this, our task is to create a table for each team showing the distances that would be walked from 1 to 6 hours. And then we're going to use that table to help us solve at the end. So starting off, I'm going to go ahead and label each one of these with the number of hours that we are going to be looking at and comparing, and we're searching for proportionality. Now, if we notice right here, it has already identified that we have a constant rate. That means every hour we're going to do the exact same thing. So with that being said, after 1 hour, we've traveled 2.5 miles. And after 2 hours, we've traveled 5 miles, then 7.5 miles. 10 miles, 12.5 miles, and 15 miles. Now, if we take a look at this, the way we can double check our constant rate, or to find if there is a constant rate, is to set up a ratio of our distance to our time, just like it is here, the distance over the time. So I have 2.5 to 1, and 5 to 2, and 7.5 to 3, 10 to 4, 12.5 to 5, and 15 to 6. And if you were to simplify each one of these, you would find that they actually meet that constant rate of 2.5 miles per hour. So what did I do to the number of hours to determine the actual number of miles that would be traveled? And the reason why I want to ask that question is that what if I was doing 10 hours? How many miles would I travel or walk? So if you notice here, what has actually occurred is I have multiplied my number of hours times my constant rate. So that would give me a chance to know that if I did 10 and I multiply it times my constant rate, I would know that I did 25 total miles. So if we come over to Team B, we know that at 1 hour, that they have traveled 4 miles. And they said they're going to add 2 more miles each time. So I'm at 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. So again, we want to check to see what's occurring, and checking for proportionality means that I'm going to have a constant rate of change. And I can check that by double checking my ratios. So I'm going to look at my ratios and see if they are equivalent. So 4 miles to 1 hour, 6 miles to 2 hours. And you're going to notice right here that those two are not equal. Now you could keep going and you're going to find this throughout the entire thing. So since there is no constant rate, they are not proportional. There is no proportional relationship. And of course, for Team A, there is. So for which team? As we said, Team A. And if we're going to explain our reasoning, for Team A, we can explain it because the distance and the time corresponds. Okay, so the ratio of miles to hours is constant. Every time. Explain how you know the distance for the others is not. Well, obviously, we've kind of covered it up here. It is not because there is not a constant rate. Now, as we look at the next page, we're not going to actually cover these top questions, so we're just going to skip those and move on. We're going to go down here and take a look at exercise number 1. So before, I'm going to get us started, and then I'm going to let you continue it and then come back. Bella types at a constant rate of 42 words per minute. So constant rate equals 42. And we would write that as 42 words per 1 minute. And if you notice, that means my words are on the top and my minutes are on the bottom. We often write it as the X and the Y. So this becomes my Y over my X. So if I have a constant rate, we know that at 1 minute, she has typed 42 words. And at 2 minutes, she's at 84 words. And how am I going to continue to calculate those? Go back to using that constant rate. So I'm going to let you take a second and figure out the total number of words for 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 60 minutes. Come back as soon as you are done, and we'll continue. Okay, so let's check your answers and see if you came up with these 3. And so my big question is this a proportional relationship? And because there is a constant rate and the ratios of 42 to 1, 84 per 2 minutes, 126 per 3 minutes, and continuing, because those are all equivalent ratios, it proves that it is a constant rate. And this actually gives you the constant rate. Okay, we're going to move past page 17, and we're going to go on to our problem sets, and we're going to try one together. And then I will give you directions for what you're going to do by yourself. So we're going to actually take a look at number 2. At the end of the summer, Caitlin had saved $120. So she has that already. That was her initial deposit into a new savings account. As the school year starts, she's going to deposit $5 each week from her allowance. Is her account balance proportional to the number of weeks of deposits? So when I'm looking at this, first I need to make sure that I account for where did she start. So at 0 weeks, she had $120 in the bank. That's always an important component to show us where we're beginning. And then after week 1, $125, week 2, $130, week 3, $135. Now to check and see if her account balance is proportional, we're going to go back and take a look at our ratios. So 120 to 0, 125 to 1, 130 to 2. Notice that would be 75. This would be 125. Okay, so obviously these are not equal. It does not have a constant rate. The ratios, the ratio of account balance per week are not equivalent. So therefore, it is not proportional. So what you're going to do for your problem set, and let me tell you up front that there may be some extra questions, but definitely all coming from your data and from your work on the Canvas quiz where you're going to actually input your answers. So you're going to solve number 1 and number 3. And for part B, instead of talking about the strategies, what different strategies, talk about what the difference was in what occurred. Okay, so you may just want to kind of compare your two and give some ideas of why they are different. So on number 1, please use the numbers 1 lawn, 2 lawn, 3 lawn, and 4 lawn. All right, good luck. I know you'll do great. Bye-bye.